The Talvek warship hung in orbit above Varath 9 like a metal predator satisfied with its kill. Below, the once beautiful cities of the Varathi people burned. Smoke rose from thousands of fires, painting the sky in shades of orange and black. The conquest had taken 3 days. 3 days of orbital bombardment before the Varathi government surrendered completely. Warlord Tulmora stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the destruction through the massive viewing screen. His forearms were crossed behind his back in a gesture of satisfaction. Around him, his officers worked at their stations, processing the surrender documents and cataloging the resources they would strip from this world. "Another world added to the Empire," said his second-in-command, bringing up the holographic display. "That makes 347 conquered systems in the past century." Tulmora nodded slowly. The Talvek Empire had perfected the art of conquest. Their method was simple and effective. First, they would arrive with overwhelming force. Second, they would demonstrate their power through limited bombardment. Third, they would offer terms of surrender. Most species chose to live as subjects rather than die as martyrs. Those who refused were crushed completely. "We have new orders," an officer announced, bringing up another holographic display. This one showed a small yellow star with several planets orbiting it. One planet was marked in red. "The High Council has identified our next target." Tulmora studied the display. The planet was small, mostly covered in water with decent resources. According to the scan data, it had a population of approximately 10 billion beings. They called themselves humans. They called their world Earth. "What is their technological level?" Tulmora asked. "Primitive," the officer replied. "They have achieved basic spaceflight. They have colonies on their moon and on the 4th planet in their system. Their weapons technology is roughly 500 years behind ours. Their largest ships carry simple missiles and kinetic weapons. No energy shields, no plasma cannons, no quantum drives." Tulmora smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Then this will be quick." "How many ships do they have?" "Approximately 200 ships total. Most are cargo vessels. Perhaps 50 are military craft, if you can call them that." Another officer laughed. "We could conquer them with a single battle group." Tulmora held up one of his hands. "Never underestimate an opponent, no matter how primitive. We will take a full invasion fleet. 200 ships. We will offer surrender as always. If they refuse, we will demonstrate our power until they have no choice but to submit." "When do we depart?" his second-in-command asked. "Immediately. Have the fleet assembled within the day." While the Talvek prepared their fleet, the Galactic Council met in their neutral space station far across the galaxy. The council chamber was a massive circular room where representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss galactic affairs. Today the session was tense. Ambassador Kite stood at the speaker's platform, his hands gripping the edges as he addressed the council. He was a human, one of the few who had been allowed to travel to the council's territory after humanity made first contact 5 years ago. His hair was starting to turn gray from stress. "Honored counselors," Kite said, his voice carrying through the chamber's acoustics. "I come before you today with an urgent request. The Talvek Empire has set its sights on Earth. We have intelligence that suggests they are assembling an invasion fleet as we speak." Counselor Vethra, a tall being covered in blue scales, regarded Kite with her large eyes. "Ambassador Kite, the council is aware of the Talvek's movements. However, we must ask, why should we intervene?" "Because it is the right thing to do," Kite said firmly. "Because humanity has done nothing to provoke this aggression. Because if we do not stand together against empires that conquer peaceful worlds, then what is the purpose of this council?" Another counselor, a floating creature made of what looked like living gas, spoke through a translation device. "The Talvek Empire controls 347 systems. They have an army that numbers in the billions. Their technology is among the most advanced in the galaxy. No single member of this council wishes to challenge them. Can you offer us a reason why we should risk war for a species we barely know?" Kite felt anger rise in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Because today it is humanity, tomorrow it might be you. The Talvek Empire grows stronger with every conquest. When will you decide to stop them?" "When they threaten a council member world," Vethra said coldly. "Humanity is not a member. You have observer status only. We cannot justify military action." Kite looked around the chamber. He saw it in their eyes, every one of them. Fear. They were all afraid of the Talvek Empire. Not one of them would stand with Earth. "Then I ask this council to remember this moment," Kite said quietly. Remember that when humanity needed you, you chose fear over justice. He left the chamber before they could respond. There was no point in staying. Earth would stand alone. Back on Earth in an underground command center beneath Seoul, Admiral Hye-jin studied the tactical displays with a grim expression. She was a small woman, but her presence commanded the room. Officers and analysts worked around her, gathering every piece of information they could about the approaching Talvek fleet. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. "Based on their speed, approximately 6 days," replied a young analyst. "They are not trying to hide their approach. They want us to know they are coming." Hye-jin nodded. "Fear is a weapon. They expect us to panic, to surrender before they even fire a shot." Captain Daewon entered the command center, still wearing his formal diplomatic uniform. He had just returned from delivering Earth's official response to the Talvek ultimatum. His face was tired, lined with stress. "How did they react?" Hye-jin asked. "Exactly as we expected," Daewon said. Warlord Tulmora laughed. He said, "We have 48 hours to consider surrender. After that, they will begin bombardment of our orbital facilities. If we still refuse, they will target our cities." "And you told them?" "I told them that Earth refuses to surrender, that we will defend ourselves with every resource we have." One of the younger officers spoke up nervously. "Sir Admiral, forgive me, but we cannot win against 200 Talvek warships. Their technology is far superior. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Their weapons can destroy our ships from ranges we cannot even reach." Hye-jin turned to face the officer. "You are correct. In a conventional battle, we would lose within hours. That is why we will not fight a conventional battle." She brought up a new display, showing the solar system with hundreds of marked positions. "The Talvek have conquered 347 worlds. Do you know why they have been so successful?" The officer shook his head. "Because every species they have faced fought the way the Talvek expected them to fight. Ship against ship, technology against technology, power against power." Hye-jin's eyes were hard. "We will not make that mistake. We will fight dirty. We will be unpredictable. We will make them pay for every meter of space they take." Daewon stood beside her, looking at the tactical display. "Even if we make them pay, Hye-jin, can we win?" She was quiet for a moment. "No, but we can make them bleed. We can show them that conquering humanity will cost more than they are willing to pay. And maybe, just maybe, we can survive long enough to find a way." Across the solar system, defense platforms activated. Ships moved into position. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Scientists worked frantically on weapons that might give them an edge. Everyone knew what was coming. The Talvek fleet jumped into human space exactly when their ultimatum expired. 200 warships appeared near Neptune's orbit, their formation perfect, their intention clear. They began their slow advance toward Earth. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Tulmora watched the human system spread out before him. "Send the final message. Tell them this is their last chance to surrender." The message was sent. The response came back within minutes. Just 2 words. "We refuse." Tulmora's eyes narrowed. "Then we will teach them the cost of defiance. All ships advance. Battle formation. Prepare weapons. Let us show these humans why 347 worlds bowed before the Talvek Empire." The fleet moved forward, entering the outer solar system. In the command center on Earth, alarms began to sound. Admiral Hye-jin took a deep breath. "Here they come. All units prepare for contact. Remember your training. Remember what we are fighting for." She looked around at her officers. "Today humanity stands. Today, we show them what it means to threaten Earth." The war had begun. The Talvek fleet moved through the outer solar system like a swarm of metal locusts. Their ships were massive, each one bristling with weapons that could level cities from orbit. They had destroyed civilizations with fleets like this. They expected the humans to run or hide. Instead, the humans came out to meet them. Near Mars' orbit, Lieutenant Suwa sat in the cockpit of her fighter craft, her hands steady on the controls despite her racing heart. Around her, 30 other fighters formed up in attack formation. Behind them were humanity's larger warships, 50 vessels that looked like children's toys compared to the Talvek dreadnoughts. "All units, this is Admiral Hye-jin." The voice came through her headset. "You know the plan. Execute it exactly as practiced. Every second matters. Every sacrifice counts. Make them remember us." "Acknowledged," Suwa replied. She looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. 200 ships. Each one could destroy her entire squadron without taking damage. But that was not the point. The point was to make them think they understood the battle. On the Talvek flagship, Warlord Tulmora watched the human ships approach with something close to disappointment. They are actually going to fight us directly? I expected more creativity from a species desperate enough to refuse surrender. His tactical officer brought up the engagement calculations. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields at their maximum range. They would need to close to within 5,000 meters to have any chance of damaging our ships. We can destroy them long before they get that close. Then do so, Tulmora commanded. Show them the futility of resistance. The Talvek ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and energy beams crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds. Human ships died in bright explosions. Su'a watched 2 fighters from her squadron vanish from her display, just gone. Their pilots never knowing what hit them. Break formation, she shouted into her comm. Execute maneuver Delta 3. The remaining human fighters scattered, moving in seemingly random patterns. The Talvek weapons tracked them, but the small craft were fast and agile. More fighters died, but some made it through the killing field. They are attempting a close approach, the Talvek tactical officer reported. Foolish. Our point defense systems will eliminate them. But Tulmora was watching carefully. Something felt wrong. The human capital ships were not advancing. They were holding position, just firing their primitive missiles toward the Talvek fleet. The missiles were slow and easy to intercept. Meanwhile, the fighters were making what appeared to be a suicide run. Why sacrifice their fighters when they know it will accomplish nothing? Tulmora muttered. Su'a's fighter shook as Talvek point defense fire exploded near her wing. Warning lights flashed across her console. She gritted her teeth and kept flying forward. Just a little closer now, she screamed into the comm. Release payloads and break off. All surviving human fighters release their payloads at once. Thousands of small objects scattered into space, each no bigger than a basketball. The Talvek tactical officer barely noticed them on his sensors. The fighters are retreating, he reported. They have released some kind of mines. Basic explosive devices. No threat to our shields, Tulmora should have felt relieved. Instead, his instincts screamed danger. Scan those objects. Full analysis now. But it was already too late, the objects activated. They were not simple mines. Each one contained a miniature artificial intelligence, quantum processors that could think and adapt in real time. They had been designed by Dr. Jae Hyun, Earth's leading weapons scientist, who had spent 5 years preparing for a war he prayed would never come. The AI mines did not attack the Talvek shields. They did not waste energy on the heavy armor plating. Instead, they moved with purpose toward the engine cores at the rear of each Talvek ship, where heat exhaust ports had to remain open to prevent catastrophic overload. In the underground command center on Earth, Dr. Jae Hyun watched his tactical display with intense focus. He was a thin man with glasses, more comfortable in a laboratory than a war room, but war had found him anyway. Mines are in position, an analyst reported. Target acquisition confirmed on 75 enemy vessels. Detonate, Hyejin said quietly. Jae-hyun pressed the button. In space, 4,000 AI mines exploded simultaneously. The explosions were small individually, but they happened inside the engine cores of 75 Talvek ships. Chain reactions erupted through the engine systems. Some ships lost all power. Others exploded as their reactors went critical. On the Talvek flagship, alarm screamed. Tulmora gripped his command chair as the entire ship shook. Report, he roared. We have lost 30 ships destroyed completely, his tactical officer said, his voice shaking. Another 45 ships are severely damaged and unable to fight. The humans targeted our engine cores. They knew exactly where our vulnerability was. Tulmora's 4 hands clenched into fists. How? How did they know? They studied us, said his second-in-command quietly. They watched recordings of our previous conquests. They analyzed our ships. They found the one weakness we never bothered to guard because no one else ever exploited it. For the first time in his career, Tulmora felt something unfamiliar. Not fear exactly, but respect. These primitive humans had drawn blood. All ships increase shield power to maximum, he commanded. Activate point defense protocols. Assume the humans have more tricks. Advance carefully. In her fighter, Su'a was racing back toward the human fleet when her communications came alive with cheers. They had actually damaged the Talvek fleet. It was not a victory, not even close, but it was proof that the enemy could bleed. Good work, Lieutenant, Hyejin's voice came through. Return to base and rearm. The real fight is about to begin. Su'a looked back at the Talvek fleet. Even with 75 ships gone, they still had 125 warships, more than enough to destroy everything humanity had. But now those ships were advancing more slowly, more carefully. They were afraid of another trick. "Admiral, they are proceeding with caution now," Daewon reported from his station. "We bought ourselves some time, but they will reach Earth within 18 hours. "Then we use every hour we have," Hyojin replied. She brought up the next phase of her plan. "Activate the Prometheus protocol." Jaehyun nodded and began entering commands. "Prometheus satellites are charging. They will be ready in 6 hours." The Prometheus protocol was humanity's second surprise. While the AI minds had been designed to exploit a physical weakness, Prometheus targeted something else entirely. The Talvek shields operated on a specific electromagnetic frequency. Jaehyun had discovered that a massive EMP burst on that exact frequency could overload the shield generators, leaving the ships vulnerable for approximately 30 seconds. 30 seconds was not much. But for weapons moving at the speed of light, 30 seconds was an eternity. Over the next 6 hours, the Talvek fleet advanced steadily. They destroyed the defensive platforms near Mars. They obliterated the human listening posts on Jupiter's moons. They pushed aside the scattered resistance from human capital ships. But they did so carefully, expecting another ambush at every moment. Tulmora stood on his bridge watching the tactical display. "The humans fight well for primitives, but they cannot stop us. They know this. So why do they continue? Perhaps they hope we will accept a negotiated surrender," his second-in-command suggested. "They have proven they can inflict casualties. Maybe they think that earns them better terms." "Send them a message," Tulmora said. "Tell them I will accept their surrender now. Terms will be harsh but fair. If they continue fighting, I will show no mercy." The message was transmitted. The response came back within minutes, not from the government, but from Admiral Hyojin herself. "Warlord Tulmora, we appreciate your offer. Our answer remains the same. We refuse. You will find that humanity does not surrender, does not bow, and does not break. You may kill us all, but you will never conquer us. Come to Earth. We have more surprises waiting." Tulmora read the message twice. Then he began to laugh, a sound that startled his crew. "Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. These humans have courage, I will give them that." "Very well, Admiral Hyojin. We accept your challenge," he turned to his tactical officer. "All ships battle formation. We go to Earth, but remain alert. The humans have proven they are dangerous even in their weakness." As the Talvek fleet approached Earth, Commander Byung-ho stood in a reinforced bunker beneath Seoul, watching feeds from around the planet. He was a career soldier, 30 years in the military, and he had prepared for many types of war. Invasion by an alien empire had not been on his list. "All ground forces are in position," his lieutenant reported. "Anti-air batteries are ready. Evacuation of major cities is 60% complete." Byung-ho nodded. The civilians who could not evacuate were in shelters deep underground. It would not save them if the Talvek used their heaviest weapons, but it was better than nothing. "When they land, we hit them with everything we have," Byung-ho said. "No mercy, no hesitation. They want Earth? They will have to take it 1 meter at a time." In orbit, the Talvek fleet settled into position around Earth. Tulmora looked down at the blue and white planet below. It was beautiful. It would look less beautiful once he was done with it. "Prepare orbital bombardment," he commanded. "Target their military installations first. Then we will see if they still refuse to surrender." The first plasma bolt hit Shanghai. The explosion was visible from space, a bright flash that marked where millions of people had lived seconds before. The city simply ceased to exist, replaced by a crater of molten glass. In the command center beneath Seoul, alarms screamed. Red indicators flashed across every screen. Admiral Hyojin watched cities die on her tactical display, her face carved from stone. "Tokyo is hit," an analyst reported, her voice breaking. "Delhi is hit. Cairo is hit. Moscow is hit. Los Angeles—" She stopped, unable to continue. The Talvek bombardment was systematic and merciless. They targeted military installations first, yes, but they also targeted population centers. They wanted humanity to see the cost of resistance, to break their will to fight. Commander Byung-ho stood in his bunker as the ground shook with impacts. Seoul was not hit yet, but he could see the flashes on the horizon where other cities burned. His hands clenched at his sides. All those people, all those lives, gone in seconds. "Sir, We have reports of Talvek landing craft approaching, his lieutenant said. They are deploying ground forces in 17 locations worldwide. Then we give them the welcome they deserve, Byung-ho said grimly. All units engage the moment they land. Show them that Earth does not yield easily. On the moon, Colonel Young-soo watched Earth burn from his hidden railgun facility. They had fired everything they had, destroyed dozens of enemy ships, but it had not been enough. Now the planet he had sworn to protect was dying beneath him. Colonel, we are detecting Talvek scanning patterns, his sensor officer reported. They are searching for the source of the railgun attacks. They will find us within the hour. Young-soo looked at his small crew, 20 men and women who had volunteered for this mission knowing they might never leave the moon alive. They had done their duty. They had hurt the enemy, but they could still do more. Prepare the facility for self-destruct, he ordered quietly. Load every remaining projectile into the launchers. We fire everything at once, then we blow the base. His crew stared at him. Sir, that will kill us all, a young technician said. Yes, Young-soo replied. But it will also kill more of them. And right now, every enemy ship we destroy might be the difference between extinction and survival for our species. The crew exchanged glances, then began following orders. No one argued. They all knew what was at stake. On the Talvek flagship, Warlord Tulmora watched the bombardment with satisfaction. The humans had hurt him badly, destroyed most of his fleet through clever tactics. But now he was reminding them of a simple truth. Cleverness meant nothing against overwhelming power. Warlord, we have located the lunar weapons facility, his tactical officer reported. Requesting permission to destroy it. Granted. Make it quick. But before the Talvek could fire, the moon's surface erupted with light. Every railgun platform in Young-soo's facility fired at once, dozens of projectiles streaking toward the Talvek fleet. At the same time, the facility's reactor detonated, creating an explosion that could be seen from Earth. 3 more Talvek ships died. Colonel Young-soo and his crew died with them, but they died knowing they had taken the enemy with them. Tulmora slammed one of his fists against his command chair. 37 ships. He was down to 37 ships from his original 200. This was supposed to be an easy conquest. Instead, it had become the bloodiest campaign in his entire career. Continue bombardment, he ordered, and deploy more ground forces. I want this planet secured. Governor Misan huddled in a shelter beneath what used to be Busan. Above her, the city was gone. She had watched it burn through the shelter's external cameras before the cameras themselves were destroyed. Now she sat in darkness with 5,000 other survivors, listening to the earth shake with distant impacts. A young woman was crying nearby, holding a photograph of her family. They had not made it to the shelter in time. Misan wanted to comfort her but could not find the words. What comfort was there when the world was ending? An emergency broadcast came through the shelter's speakers. It was Admiral Hyejin's voice, somehow still calm despite everything. People of Earth, this is Admiral Hyejin. I will not lie to you. We are losing. Our cities are burning. Billions have died. The Talvek fleet still has enough ships to destroy us completely. In shelters around the world, people listened in despair. Was this the end? But we are not beaten, Hyejin continued. We have hurt them. We have destroyed more than 80% of their fleet. We have shown them that humanity does not bow, and we are not done fighting. Right now, our forces are engaging their landing parties. Right now, our scientists are developing new weapons. Right now, we are preparing our next move. Hyejin paused. I do not know if we will win. I do not know if any of us will survive this. But I know this, the Talvek will remember Earth. They will remember the cost of attacking humanity. And that memory will protect future generations from suffering the same fate. Stay strong. Stay alive. We fight on, the broadcast ended. In the shelter, Misan saw people's faces change. The despair was still there, but something else appeared alongside it. Determination. If they were going to die, they would die fighting. Above, on the surface, Commander Byung-ho's forces engaged the Talvek landing parties. The Talvek soldiers were larger than humans, better armored with superior weapons. But Byung-ho's troops knew the terrain. They had prepared ambush points in every city, every town, every forest. Talvek dropships landed near the ruins of Seoul. Hundreds of soldiers poured out, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. They expected terrified resistance, disorganized militias. Instead, they walked into a kill zone. Explosives planted weeks ago detonated beneath the dropships. Anti-armor missiles fired from hidden positions in the rubble. Human soldiers emerged from tunnels, firing their weapons at point-blank range before disappearing back underground. The Talvek landing party lost a quarter of their forces in the first 5 minutes. The survivors took cover and began to fight back, but this was not the easy ground operation they had expected. "This is Ground Force Commander Telvar to Fleet," a Talvek officer radioed. "We are facing heavy resistance. The humans have fortified positions everywhere. They are using guerrilla tactics, requesting additional support." Tulmora listened to the report with growing frustration. "Deploy more troops. Use overwhelming force. I want their resistance crushed." But everywhere the Talvek landed, they faced the same problem. The humans refused to fight conventionally. They attacked and retreated. They used the ruins of their own cities as weapons. They set traps and ambushes. They made the Talvek pay for every meter of ground. In the command center, Daewon was coordinating intelligence operations. He had spent his career as a negotiator, trying to prevent conflicts through diplomacy. That career was over. Now he was a warrior, using every piece of information they could gather to hurt the enemy. "We have intercepted Talvek communications," he reported to Hyejin. "Their ground forces are requesting more support." They did not expect this level of resistance. "Good," Hyejin said, "but it is not enough. We are bleeding them, but they are still going to win unless we can change the situation dramatically." She looked at her tactical display, at the 37 Talvek ships still in orbit. They had orbital superiority. They could bombard any position the humans tried to hold. As long as those ships remained, Earth would eventually fall. "We need to hit them somewhere they are not expecting," she said quietly. "Somewhere that will make them think twice about continuing this war." Daewon looked at her carefully. "What are you thinking?" Hyejin pulled up a star map showing Talvek territory. She pointed to a system deep in their space. Talvora's Prime, their regional capital, the administrative center for this entire sector of their empire. "That is impossible," Daewon said. "It would take months to reach it with our ships. By then Earth will be conquered. Unless we use the quantum slip drive," Hyejin said. The room went silent. The quantum slip drive was experimental technology, barely tested. It could move a ship across vast distances almost instantly, but the energy requirements were massive and the risks were enormous. They only had 20 ships equipped with the prototype drives. "If we send those 20 ships away, Earth loses its last mobile defense force," an officer protested. "Earth has already lost," Hyejin said bluntly. "The Talvek fleet in orbit will destroy us eventually. Our only chance is to make them stop the bombardment. And the only way to do that is to threaten something they value more than Earth." She looked around at her officers. "We need to hit them where it hurts. We need to show them that if they destroy Earth, we will destroy their worlds in return." Mutually assured destruction. Dr. Jae-hyun spoke up from his station. "The singularity bombs are ready. We have 3 prototypes. If deployed correctly, they could devastate a planet's orbital infrastructure." "Then we use them," Hyejin said. "Captain Daewon, you are being reassigned. You will lead the intelligence operation to feed targeting data to our strike fleet. Dr. Yunji, you will oversee the singularity bomb deployment." Across the room, Dr. Yunji nodded. She was a quantum physicist who had never imagined her research would be turned into weapons of mass destruction. But war had come, and her research might be the only thing that could save humanity. "Who will command the strike fleet?" Daewon asked. Captain Sunwoo stood on the bridge of his ship, the Indomitable, watching his crew make final preparations for the quantum slip jump. He was a veteran of humanity's early space exploration, someone who had spent years traveling between Earth and Mars in the slow, careful way humans had done things before the war. Now he was about to cross the galaxy in seconds using technology they barely understood. "All ships reporting ready," his first officer said. "Quantum slip drives are charged. Coordinates locked on Talvora's Prime." Sunwoo took a deep breath. Behind them, Earth burned. Ahead of them was the heart of the Talvek Empire. 20 ships against an entire civilization. It should have been suicide. Maybe it was suicide. But it was also the only chance humanity had. "All ships, this is Captain Sunwoo. We know the mission. We know the stakes. The Talvek brought war to our home. Now we bring war to theirs. Activate quantum slip drives on my mark." He paused, thinking of his family who had died when Beijing was hit. Thinking of all the billions who had already perished. Thinking of the billions more who would die if this mission failed. "Mark." Space twisted around the 20 human ships. For a moment that felt like eternity and no time at all. They existed everywhere and nowhere. Then reality snapped back into place and they were across the galaxy, emerging in orbit of Talvorus Prime. The planet below was beautiful, 3 continents covered in purple vegetation, vast oceans reflecting a yellow sun, orbital platforms and shipyards circled the world, a sign of centuries of peace and prosperity. Defense satellites detected the human ships immediately, but they were slow to respond. No one attacked Talvorus Prime. It was too deep in Empire territory, too well protected by the vast Talvec military. An attack here was unthinkable, until now. Deploy the singularity bombs, Sun Wu ordered. Dr. Eun-ji had worked on the singularity bomb project for 3 years before the war started. The concept was simple but terrifying. Create a controlled micro-black hole, then let it destabilize in a specific way. The resulting gravitational distortions would tear apart anything nearby. The problem was that the bombs were experimental. They might not work, or they might work too well and become uncontrollable. Right now, Sun Wu did not care about the risks. 3 bombs were launched from 3 different human ships. They moved toward specific points in Talvorus Prime's orbit, guided by the targeting data that Daewon had helped compile from captured Talvec databases. The bombs positioned themselves near the major orbital shipyards in the primary defense platform cluster. Bombs in position, the weapons officer reported. Detonation in 30 seconds. On Talvorus Prime, alarms were finally beginning to sound. Defense forces were scrambling, but they were confused. The human ships were not attacking the planet. They were not even attacking the orbital facilities directly. What were they doing? High Chancellor Morthek, the political leader of this sector of the Talvec Empire, stood in his office watching the orbital display with growing concern. What are those human ships doing here? How did they get past our defenses? We do not know, Chancellor, his military advisor said, but they have deployed some kind of weapons. We are trying to determine. The first singularity bomb detonated. A point in space suddenly became infinitely dense. Gravity itself screamed in protest. The micro-black hole lasted only a fraction of a second before it collapsed, but in that fraction of a second it created a gravitational distortion that reached out like a hungry god. The primary shipyard, which had been building Talvec warships for 300 years, was pulled apart. Metal twisted. Structure failed. Ships under construction were torn from their moorings and crushed. Workers died instantly, their bodies subjected to forces no living thing could withstand. Then the second bomb detonated near the defense platform cluster. Satellites and weapons platforms that had protected this world for generations were ripped from orbit. Some fell toward the planet. Others were flung into deep space. The defensive network that had made Talvorus Prime untouchable simply ceased to exist. The third bomb detonated near the commercial shipping hub. Hundreds of civilian ships were destroyed in seconds. The hub itself collapsed, debris spreading across the orbital plane. On his ship, Sun Wu watched the destruction with a cold expression. He felt no joy in this, no satisfaction, only grim necessity. Broadcast the message, he ordered. A transmission went out on all Talvec frequencies, not just near Talvorus Prime but throughout their entire empire. The message showed the devastation around the planet. It showed the human fleet, tiny but deadly, sitting in orbit of a core Talvec world. Then Sun Wu's face appeared on the broadcast. He looked tired, haunted, but his voice was steady. People of the Talvec Empire, I am Captain Sun Wu of the Earth Defense Forces. Your warlord Tullamora brought war to my world. He burned our cities. He killed billions of our people. He thought humanity would surrender in fear. Sun Wu paused, letting them see the destruction behind him. He was wrong. Today, humanity shows you the consequences of your aggression. We have struck at the heart of your empire. We have destroyed the orbital infrastructure of Talvorus Prime. We did this with only 20 ships. His expression hardened. And we are not done. Right now, 50 singularity bombs are positioned near 50 different Talvec worlds. They are hidden. They are on dead man switches. If Earth falls silent, if our transmissions stop for more than 24 hours, those bombs will automatically detonate. 50 of your worlds will suffer the same fate as Talvorus Prime. Across the Talvec Empire, billions watched the broadcast in shock and horror. This was impossible. Humans were primitive. They were weak, How had they struck so deep into Empire territory? Here is humanity's warning, Sun Wu continued. For every human world you destroy, we will erase one of yours from existence. Not the planets themselves, but everything in orbit. All your infrastructure, all your defenses, all your trade. We will set your empire back centuries, and if you push us to extinction, we will drag you into the void with us. He leaned closer to the camera. Call your fleet back from Earth, end this war, or learn that humanity has nothing left to lose except revenge. The broadcast ended. On the Talvek flagship above Earth, Warlord Tulmora watched the message with disbelief. His communication systems were going crazy with emergency calls from across the Empire. High Chancellor Morthek was demanding answers. His own superiors were screaming for explanations. Is this real? He asked his intelligence officer. Can they actually have bombs on 50 worlds? We do not know, sir. But the attack on Talvoris Prime was definitely real. We have confirmed the destruction. And if they can strike there, they might be able to strike anywhere. Tilmora's four hands clenched. He looked down at Earth, at the burning planet below. He had conquered this world, or nearly conquered it. His ground forces controlled most of the major population centers. The human defenders were scattered and weakening. Another few days and the conquest would be complete, but at what cost? He had lost 163 ships out of his original 200. He had lost 40% of his ground forces, and now the humans were threatening to destroy 50 Empire worlds if he continued. Could he take that risk? Sir, we are receiving direct orders from Emperor Zulvarak himself, his communication officer said nervously. He is demanding we cease bombardment immediately. Tulmora closed his eyes. He had never failed a conquest before, but he had never faced an enemy like this before. An enemy that would rather die than surrender. An enemy that would threaten mutual destruction rather than accept defeat. Cease all bombardment operations, he ordered quietly. Pull our ground forces back to defensive positions, and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we are willing to negotiate. On Earth, in the command center beneath Sol, Admiral Haijin received the message with a combination of relief and exhaustion. They had done it. The gamble had worked. The Talvek were actually backing down. They are pulling back, she said to her officers. Sun Wu did it. He made them blink first. Around her, people were crying, cheering, hugging each other, but Haijin could not celebrate. She looked at her casualty reports. 8 billion humans dead, 50 major cities destroyed. The planet's infrastructure shattered. Even if they had stopped the Talvek, Earth was devastated. Daewon stood beside her, looking at the same reports. We survived, he said quietly. That is more than we had any right to hope for. But at what cost? Haijin asked. How many generations will it take to rebuild? How many families destroyed? How many? We survived, Daewon repeated firmly, and we showed the galaxy that humanity cannot be conquered. That matters. That will protect our children and grandchildren from suffering the same fate. In orbit, Captain Sun Wu prepared his fleet to leave Talvoris Prime. They had accomplished their mission. Now they needed to get home before the Talvek military could respond in force. The quantum slip drives were charged and ready. All ships, prepare for jump back to Earth, he ordered. We have delivered humanity's warning. Now let us go home. As his ship prepared to jump, Sun Wu looked one last time at Talvoris Prime. He saw rescue ships moving through the debris field. He saw the planet below, unharmed but vulnerable without its orbital defenses. He had done this. He had destroyed so much, but he had also saved Earth. He had given humanity a chance to survive. Jump, he ordered. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such attendance. Representatives from every member species crowded into the vast circular room, along with observers from dozens of non-member civilizations. Everyone had seen the broadcast from Earth and Talvoris Prime. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Ambassador Kitay stood at the speaker's platform once again, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. When he had come here weeks ago to plead for help, he had been ignored. Now every eye in the chamber was fixed on him with a mixture of respect and fear. Honored counselors, Kitay began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. I stand before you not as a supplicant seeking aid, but as a representative of a species that has defended itself against unprovoked aggression. He brought up holographic displays showing the devastation on Earth, cities reduced to ash, billions dead, the planet's infrastructure shattered. The Talvek Empire came to our world with 200 warships. They demanded our surrender. When we refused, they bombarded our planet without mercy. 8 billion human beings died in their attack. Murmurs spread through the chamber. 8 billion. It was a staggering number. But humanity did not surrender, Kite continued. We fought back with every resource we had. We destroyed more than 80% of the Talvek invasion fleet through tactical innovation and sheer determination. And when they continued to bombard our world, we struck at the heart of their empire. The holographic display changed to show the destruction around Talvorus Prime, the shattered shipyards, the destroyed defense platforms, the debris field that had once been the pride of the Talvek Empire. We have shown the galaxy something important today, Kite said. We have shown that humanity will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. We will not accept extinction quietly. If pushed to the brink, we will ensure our enemies pay a price that makes victory meaningless. Counselor Vethra leaned forward. Ambassador Kite, are you confirming that humanity has deployed planet-killing weapons throughout Talvek space? I am confirming that we have the capability and the willingness to inflict devastating damage on any species that threatens our existence, Kite replied carefully. The specifics of our defensive measures remain classified. Another counselor, a being of energy contained in a crystalline form, spoke up. Your species has shown remarkable military capability, but you have also demonstrated a willingness to use weapons of mass destruction. How can the galaxy trust that humanity will not turn these weapons against others? Kite met the counselor's gaze directly. We deployed these weapons only after the Talvek killed 8 billion of our people. We use them only on military targets, taking care to minimize civilian casualties. And we use them not to conquer, but to defend. Humanity seeks no empire. We seek only the right to exist in peace. The Talvek claim they offered surrender terms, another counselor said. They claim you chose war. They offered terms that would have ended our independence, Kite said sharply. Surrender would have made humanity subjects of the Talvek Empire. Our resources would have been exploited. Our people would have been scattered across their empire as laborers. That is not peace. That is slavery dressed in diplomatic language. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened. Warlord Tulmora entered, flanked by his officers. He walked to the speaker's platform where Kite stood. For a moment, the two warriors looked at each other. One had led the defense of Earth, the other had led the attack. Ambassador Kite, Tulmora said formally, on behalf of the Talvek Empire, I have been authorized to offer a ceasefire. The chamber erupted in noise. A ceasefire? The mighty Talvek Empire was actually negotiating with a species they had tried to conquer. Tulmora raised one of his 4 hands for silence. The Empire acknowledges that the cost of conquering Earth is unacceptably high. We lost 163 ships and tens of thousands of soldiers. Your species has proven its ability to inflict devastating damage on our core worlds. Continuing this war serves neither of our interests. What terms do you offer? Kite asked. The Talvek Empire will withdraw all forces from Earth and human territory. We will pay reparations for the damage inflicted. In exchange, humanity will remove the weapons you have positioned near our worlds and agree to a mutual non-aggression pact. Kite considered this. The terms were better than he had dared hope for. But he could not appear too eager. The reparations must be substantial. 8 billion lives cannot be measured in simple economic terms, but the rebuilding will require enormous resources. We understand, Tulmora said. We propose a payment plan that will last 50 years. Materials, technology, and expertise to help rebuild Earth. And the Galactic Council? Kite asked, looking at Vethra. Where do you stand? Vethra was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. The Council was wrong to refuse aid when the Talvek threatened Earth. We allowed fear to guide us instead of justice. We cannot undo that mistake, but we can ensure it does not happen again. She looked around the chamber. I propose that humanity be offered full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and protections that entails. Furthermore, I propose we establish a mutual defense treaty. Any attack on a council member will be treated as an attack on all members. The chamber exploded with debate. Offering membership to humanity? Creating a mutual defense treaty? It would change everything about galactic politics. But slowly the councilors began to vote. Some voted yes because they genuinely believed in justice. Others voted yes because they were terrified of what humanity might do if marginalized again. And some voted yes because they saw humanity as valuable allies. The resolution passed. Kite felt something he had not felt in months. Hope, real hope. On behalf of humanity, I accept the Council's offer. We will be proud to join you as equals. He turned to Tulmora. And we accept the Talvek ceasefire terms with one addition. The Empire must acknowledge publicly that their attack on Earth was unjustified aggression. We will not let history record this as a mutual conflict. This was an invasion and it was wrong. Tulmora's expression was difficult to read, but he nodded slowly. Agreed. The Empire will issue a formal apology and acknowledgement. As the two leaders shook hands, or rather as Kitai's hand met one of Tulmora's 4 hands, the chamber erupted in applause. The war was over. Humanity had survived. Back on Earth, Admiral Hai-Jin received the news in her command center. She had not slept in days, had not left the bunker since the bombardment began. Now she finally allowed herself to sit down to let the exhaustion wash over her. We did it, Daewon said beside her. We actually did it. At what cost? Hai-Jin asked, looking at her screen showing casualty figures and damage assessments. 8 billion dead, 50 major cities destroyed, our industrial capacity reduced by 70%. It will take decades to recover. But we survived, Daewon said, and we kept our freedom. Our children will grow up on Earth, not as subjects of an empire. That is worth the cost, Hai-Jin looked at him. Is it? Is any price worth paying for freedom? Ask the people in the shelters, Daewon replied. Ask Commander Byung-ho and his soldiers. Ask Governor Mi-sun and the survivors. They all chose to fight rather than surrender. They all decided that freedom was worth the risk. Deep in her bunker beneath what used to be Busan, Governor Mi-sun gathered the survivors together. They had just received word of the ceasefire. People were crying with relief, hugging each other, celebrating their survival. Mi-sun looked at them and felt pride. These people had lost everything. Their homes, their families, their entire world. But they had not broken. They had survived. We have a lot of work ahead of us, she told them. Rebuilding will take years. Many of us will struggle with trauma and loss, but we are alive. And as long as we live, Earth lives. She looked up at the ceiling as if she could see through the rock to the sky above. The Talvek came to conquer us. Instead, they learned what humanity truly is. We are survivors. We are fighters. And we do not bow. The survivors cheered, and Mi-sun allowed herself a small smile. They would rebuild. Somehow they would rebuild. Captain Sun-woo returned to Earth orbit with his strike fleet. All 20 ships had survived the mission, though several were badly damaged. As they approached Earth, Sun-woo looked down at the planet. Even from space, he could see the scars. The blackened areas where cities had burned. The smoke still rising from countless fires. But he could also see the lights. Not as many as before, but enough. Enough to show that humanity endured. Captain, we are being hailed by Earth Command, his communication officer said. Admiral Hai-Jin wants to speak with you. Hai-Jin's face appeared on his screen. She looked exhausted but proud. Captain Sun-woo, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, thank you. Your mission saved us. We only did what needed to be done, Sun-woo replied, though I will carry the weight of Talvorus Prime for the rest of my life. We all carry weights now, Hai-Jin said softly. The cost of survival is measured in scars, but you gave us a future, Captain. That matters. Across Earth, the survivors began to emerge from their shelters. They saw the devastation. They counted their losses. They wept for the dead, but they also began to rebuild. Commander Byung-ho organized his soldiers to help with rescue operations. Dr. Jae-hyun and Dr.